Okay, so I kind of want to start from the beginning with you. So you began refereeing is it 1987?
Yes, I did actually.
How did that come about?
I started refereeing when I was in school, just by pure chance really. Not sort of wanting to be a referee, nothing like that. I played rugby in school. Didn't play for a local club because junior rugby at that time wasn't really a big thing. You played for school usually. And then the teacher strike happened in school back sort of 85 maybe, I think, 84. There's a big teacher strike in school. And then during that strike and after the strike, a lot of sort of after school activities were sort of stopped, you know, because teachers weren't getting paid for them. So a lot of clubs took over sort of rugby then. That's when the junior section started in a lot of clubs. So I played in school. I played with the first 15 in school. I played full back. I wasn't very good. I was just pretty hopeless, to be honest. And we were playing our last game of the season. We were a very small school. It was a Welsh medium school. It was a new school. The grammar school had just been phased out. And then there were new schools starting up, and I went to the Welsh speaking school. And they were a small school at the time. They've grown, and they're big schools now. And so we only had a bare 15. And we were playing a game end of the season. We played about 12 games that year. We lost all of them in hammering. And we were playing the last game of the season down in Ysgol Griffith Jones in St Clair. So my school was my Syrfa. And the score was 12-all. My best mate was playing centre. And he scored the try to make it 12-all. Conversion to come, last play of the game. And I was playing full back, and I told the captain, who was another best mate of mine, I said, look, I'll take his conversion, because I thought, if I take his conversion, we'll win the game 14-12, and I'll be a hero in school. Last game of the season, first win. I took the conversion, and when I went up to kick the ball went closer to the corner post than it actually did between the uprights. And the game finished 12-all. My mates didn't speak to me for a few days, and the sports teacher, John Bynan, he said, late John Biden now, unfortunately, he said, oh, bloody hell, Nigel, he said, will you go and referee or something, will you? And I said, right, okay then. And then the following week, there were inter-house seven-a-side competitions going on in school, and I just sort of said, all right, then I'll go and do some refereeing now, I'll help you out. So I went to help out refereeing some school games, and just enjoyed it, and that's how it started, really. So just by pure chance, pretty much because we missed conversion, really. If I hadn't missed that conversion, I probably would have started refereeing, probably, I don't think.
So when was your first, would you say, your big breakthrough in terms of refereeing came?
Well, quite later on in my career, really, because I ref the first 4 or 5 years, because I was working on a farm and stuff as well, so I was working some Saturdays, and I didn't sort of really take it that seriously. And then after about 5 years, I sort of, right, you know, I'm going to give it a go now. And then I got promoted onto the Welsh Rugby Union, which was the first big step. So that was the first big step, really. The first big break was going from refereeing the district, which would be your second 15, your youth, your school games, which you can still do now. But then you got invited on then to the Welsh Rugby Union, which would mean you referee the first 15. And then when you were on the Welsh Rugby Union list, then you gradually then go through the system then and work your way to the top. So my first breakthrough, I guess, was going from the district up to the WIU level. And then within the WIU level, the next break came then about probably 3 years after I started refereeing at the WIU level. Clive Norling, ex-international referee, who was a referee's coach at the time, new thing in Wales, and then he became a referee's manager for a while. And he came to watch me refereeing a game. And I refereed the game really well, and what he would do then, if he saw somebody potential, he'd get a group of young referees together, or they were of various age really, they weren't that young, some of them. And you sort of be promoted quickly then, so I got sort of bumped up then about 2 or 3 grades. So instead of going year after year, up 1 grade, up 2nd grade, up the next grade, I sort of jumped up about 3 grades. So that was my second big break. And then the next big break came after that then, when Derek Bevan retired in 2000 from refereeing. I sort of took his place on the sort of top professional level then, and started refereeing your Swanseas, your Caerphillys, your Pontypridd, your Cardiffs, but 2 years before they went to regional rugby. So there were sort of 3 breaks really, I guess, within that system. And then after that then, there was the next break would come then, when you'd get invited to go to the under-20s World Cup, or the under-19s it was back then as well, and the SEMS tournament. I did the World Rugby SEMS, And then after that, then I got my first cap then in 2005 out in Japan against Ireland. And that then was the sort of big break then in getting on to the international level. So there was about 4 or 5 breaks in between the system, really.
Right, so at what point, kind of a similar question, but at what point did you know or think that this was now my career? You weren't going to do anything else?
Well, it wasn't a career, you see. At the beginning, it was an amateur hobby, and it was a hobby until rugby went professional in 1996. And I think the New Zealand Rugby Union and then the English Rugby Union the year after, I think, as far as referees went, they went professional back sort of, I think, probably 96, 97, 98. And then the Welsh Rugby Union then decided in 2001 that they were going to employ 3 professional referees. And I was one of those 3 myself, Nigel Williams and Hugh Watkins. So I went professional in 2001, but until then, it was an amateur. We didn't get paid to referee games until about 1999, I think. They started paying referees in Wales. And then it came a job then in 2001, and then I'm obviously still employed as a professional referee. And then now there's another 2 employed as well now, Ben Whitehouse and Craig Evans. So that's when it became a job for me really back then.
So before that, what did you have any other kind of aims for the future? Was there a job you certainly wanted to do, or was it just...
I worked when I left school, I worked in farm for a year. I went back to work in school then, and I worked in school for about 13 years as a technician and a caretaker as well for a bit whilst I was working in the school, until I went full time in 2001. So I was just working in school as a technician and referee as a hobby really. Now it's different now. There's probably more pressure now, I suppose, on a lot of young referees now, because a lot of young referees take up refereeing because they see it as an opportunity to make a living out of it, a job out of it, and a lot of them find it very difficult because only a handful actually make it to that level. And then also as well, there was no pressure on me back then. You know, the pressure of I have to referee well or I'm going to lose my job, or that pressure wasn't there. It was just a hobby, just something you did, you enjoyed really. But now there's extra pressure now because you're a professional referee now, or you want to be a professional referee now. They expect you not to make mistakes anymore, and that's not the case. When you used to make mistakes years ago, and people you say, well, the referee got that wrong today, and people will say, well, you know, if it wasn't for the referee, he wouldn't have a game, you know, he's doing it for the love of the game and stuff like that, and people would be more sympathetic, when now they're not anymore. They say, well, he's getting paid for doing it, it's his job, he should be making mistakes. Well, it's impossible to referee without making mistakes. So a lot of different pressures and stuff now than there was back then.
Yeah. Moving on slightly, I don't know if you're aware of this, but you're quite a well-known rugby referee. Some of them aren't necessarily that famous of names, but yours is one that I would speak to most people when they'll be aware of who you are. And on Twitter and Facebook, because you have a certain style of refereeing on the pitch, on social media, there's a lot of kind of montages of your best bits that people find the most enjoyable.
There's probably a lot of montages of bad bits as well, if you look at them.
The thing is, with the good and the bad bits, a lot of people see it in different ways. So your humour on the pitch, obviously not everyone's going to understand that or get that, but how does it feel to have this kind of, I would say, celebrity status? Because I guess you wouldn't think of it that way.
No.
But there is a lot about you on the internet. How do you deal with that? How do you think about that?
I don't really think about it, to be honest. I know it's there, you know, and people will tweet bits and stuff, your best bits, and then you see them, or sometimes you retweet them, but you know, I don't go on the internet to look at what bits have I got on there. You know, it comes to you now. If you're on social media now, stuff will come to you, and I don't really think of it like that really, because at the end of the day, all I do is just go out and referee a game of rugby in my personality, in my style. I don't go out in that field to make best bits up, but to be humorous. It's just the way I am, and I've always been a humorous person when I was a kid. You know, when I was a kid in school at 12 years of age, you know, I'd be saying jokes to all the other kids in the class and stuff like that, and you know, remembering some jokes from comedians and saying them in school, and so I've always been humorous really, and that's just my personality out on the field. So I don't really think about that. As long as I do my job That's the most important thing. Above everything else, I do my job as a referee, and like if I feel like say something, I just say it. But also as well, I'm quite aware as well that with that now comes the opportunity, I guess, for people who don't like you for whatever reason. They may have never met you, but they just, I don't like him. I don't like his style of refereeing. I don't like him for whatever reason. And there's an opportunity for them people when you do get things wrong. And I'm quite aware that my profile is quite high in rugby. I wouldn't call myself a celebrity, but I do realise my profile is high in rugby. And if I was saying, well, no, I don't think it is, then I'd be lying, because I know it is, because you see the things that are out in the press and people tell you, so I'm aware of that. But with that then comes more pressure for you to perform, because if you don't perform, people actually are quite happy then for you not to perform, to knock you down and stuff. So it brings an added pressure, really, you know, when some people out there, I hear a lot of people tell me, and I actually see it in some referees myself sometimes, who maybe want to be me or trying to be me, and I keep telling them, and I tell the people, they can't be. You can't be somebody you're not. Just be yourself. Just be the next whoever you will be. You know, don't try to be me. Don't try to be somebody else and somebody you're not. So I realise that, and with that comes a pressure, and I tell them, you don't realise how much pressure it brings when you're known, because sometimes a referee will make a mistake in the game and nobody mentions it afterwards, but because I make a mistake in the game, it's highlighted 10 times as much maybe than it would be with another referee in another game and another day. And that brings extra pressure, so I'm quite aware of that, but that pressure also I use to my advantage. I don't let that pressure get me down and get me sort of worried about it. I use that pressure of knowing that I have to go out in the field and do my best, and I have to perform to prevent the minority of people out there who are waiting for you to cock up so they can have a dig at you. So I use that then sort of as a tool, really, right? You know, I'm going to make sure I work hard and do my job as a referee, that I don't give people ammunition really to knock me down. So I use this to my advantage in one sense.
Yeah. So moving on to maybe the slightly more difficult parts of your life, you've made some quite big decisions, I think, over your life. Maybe the most notably, in 2007, you decided to come out as gay. How much thought went into that decision in terms of making it public? Because that obviously has the ability that it could change your life. It could be a huge impact.
Yeah, it did change my life, that's for sure.
And did you struggle before making it a public thing? I
struggled more than worrying about the actual coming out and if I was going to do it or not, because I actually struggled for a long time in my life in accepting it myself. You know, I was 19 years of age before I started realizing that I was different to the norm of what people believe people to be. And I was about 19 then, you know, I had a girlfriend and stuff at the time. I had girlfriends till then, never sort of thought anything about a guy in that way at all. So at 19 years of age, I started getting these strange, weird feelings for me. I think, what the hell is all this about? So I was becoming somebody I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be gay, didn't know nothing about being gay. And that really put me in a very bad, dark place when I started suffering with mental health issues because of the worry of it, of not wanting to be this person, worrying what people are going to say and find out, and not wanting to be myself, feeling a sense of ashamedness. And you know, and if I went out on the odd occasion, I'd go out, and if I'd meet another guy and something happened, you know, I'd scrub myself in the showers for hours and hours afterwards until my skin was, you know, red because I felt dirty. I felt there was something wrong with me. And that went on for years, and then with that came the bulimia and everything. The eating disorder came a part of it, and I became hooked on steroids, and it just became life was a total disaster, where it came to a stage where there was only going to be one way out for me, was to try and take my own life, but luckily I had a second chance. So that was the most difficult thing, was accepting who I was, and if I hadn't come within 20 minutes of losing my life, and my sort of parents sort of telling me, you know, if you try to do anything like that again and taking your own life, then you may as well take me and your dad with you, because we don't want to live our life without you. And that's when I realised, bloody hell, I need to grow up here and accept who I was. So that was the biggest challenge. You know, reffing Reffing the World Cup final in front of 85,000 people in Twickenham 2 years ago, millions of people watching on telly at home, every single one watching every decision you make to see if you get it right, was nothing compared to the pressure and the challenge of accepting who I was. So that was the most difficult thing. And then once I accepted who I was, then came the next stage then of, right, what am I going to do about it now? Am I going to live this lie? I was still living a lie, you know, nobody knew, maybe people may have guessed, I don't know, but I didn't tell anybody. And then that was about 1996 when I sort of attempted to take my own life, and then that's when I sort of accepted who I was. And then from 1996 until I actually came out in 2005 to family and friends, but it came out in the press and stuff in 2007. So until then, you know, I was still living a lie, still worrying about it, still getting bouts of, you know, feeling down, mental health issues, still the back of your mind worrying, if people find out, am I going to be able to carry on refereeing, because there was nobody out in the macho world of rugby back then. So yeah, it took a long time for me then to make the decision, and I made the decision in the end in 2005. I had my first cap, Japan against Ireland, out in Osaka. I'd also done Scotland Barbarians, and I hadn't refereed the 2 games very well. I'd done them okay, but not well. And then after that June test, they were making the appointments then for the autumn internationals, and there was something like 15 international games during the autumn window to be appointed to, and there were 16 international referees. And the referees manager rang me up, World Rugby Referees Manager rang me up and said, look, I got 15 games, I got 16 referees, and somebody's going to lose out in the game, and it's going to be you, because your performances haven't been good enough. And I knew they weren't good enough, because in the back of my mind was still this worry of people finding out, am I going to come out, am I going to have to finish refereeing? I honestly thought I was going to have to make that choice of carrying on my life as a lie, so that I could carry on refereeing, or do I come out and risk giving up refereeing so I can get on in my life? And you shouldn't have to make that decision, but I honestly thought I would have to. And it was affecting my refereeing, because when you're involved in elite level sport, or if you're involved in anything in life, whether it's just, you know, any job you do, studying in university, whatever you do, unless you are totally focused on what you're doing and happy within yourself, you can't excel and be the best that you can be or want to be. And particularly in elite level sport, because that extra 1% makes a difference in you becoming one of the best or the best than the also runs or the average. And because I wasn't able to sort of have that extra 1%, because this worry was going on in my head, I wasn't 100% focusing on what I needed to do. I wasn't happy within myself, so I wasn't. And if you're not happy within yourself, you're not going to be as good as you can be in what you're doing, whatever you're doing. And I had to make the decision. I thought, right, I've lost my chance of an international in November, and I probably blow my chance. And I thought, that's it. And then I had a phone call from the referee's manager 2 weeks later and said, look, there's another game come in. Argentina playing Samoa out in Buenos Aires. So we'll appoint you to that game. And I thought, right, I've got 6 months or 5 months to get myself right up here. Physically, I was fine, right, to get myself right up here for this game, because if I don't, it'll be my last. And I thought, I sort of mulled over it for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I thought, right, I'm going to have to come out, I'm going to have to tell people. So I told my mum first of all, and then I went to see my line manager in work to see if I could come out. If he's going to say, well, look, I don't know how this is going to affect your refereeing, then I'd really have to think what I'm going to do. And he said, no, look, you know, the WIU will support you, I'll support you, and they did. The world of rugby has supported me ever since. So that decision was made in 2005, and then I went to referee that game in Argentina, and I refereed it well. I really refereed it well, because now all the sort of pressures and worries were gone. I was able to focus now on that little extra percentage that I needed. And I refereed the game well, and then I've gone on now to date to referee 79 test matches, 6 European Cup finals and 4 Pro 12 finals, and I wouldn't have been able to do any of that if I hadn't accepted myself and come out. And then, so I did, I mulled over it for years and years and years really, and it affected my life hugely over those years. And then it actually came out in the press in 2007, because after that game in 2005, when I came out to family and friends, although people knew people still didn't really know. I didn't, you know, the press never asked a question and I never said anything. And at the end of the day, I was a nobody. I was just a referee. Obviously then I got appointed then to the 2007 World Cup, which was a bit of a surprise for me and for a lot of people, because I wasn't in that sort of top 12 group really. And I refereed well since 2005 because now I was able to concentrate and enjoy myself. The pressure had gone of the worry, and I was refereeing really well, and I forced myself into that top 12 in the world, and I went to the World Cup in 2007. And then when that was announced, so my profile went up a bit with the bigger games I did. And then the press asked the questions, and I said, "Look, I'm gay," and it was all sort of came out in the press then, in just before the 2007 World Cup, really, and then the rest is history after that, I guess.
Got right out of it, I think, since you've with all those finals refereed and all that.
And if I hadn't been able to be myself, been true to myself, and if rugby hadn't allowed me to be myself, there was no way I could have done that. You can't, no matter what you do. You know, if you're worrying about something, the simple things in life, just getting to work every day becomes a burden. You don't enjoy yourself. And if you're not enjoying yourself doing something, you're not going to do as well in it. No way. And the same as a study, you go to university and you're studying the subject you do because you probably feel passionate about it, you enjoy it, and because of that, you're going to do your best, and you will probably do your best at it. For people who are doing a subject or doing a job which, I don't really like this subject, there's no way they can be the best at it then, because they're not enjoying it. And the same for me as refereeing. I wasn't enjoying life, I wasn't enjoying refereeing because of this constant worry. And once I started enjoying it and being able to be myself within that environment, then I was able to go on and referee all the finals and the World Cup finals and everything that came with it.
I just want to quickly touch upon, so obviously you struggled quite a lot mentally during that time. How did the world of rugby, how did rugby refereeing, did that help you, or did it have a negative influence on it?
Well, the world of rugby and refereeing had a negative influence until I came out, until I realised that people weren't worried or didn't care in the nicest possible way. You know, they just cared about me, they didn't care who I was. So it played a huge part. If I probably hadn't been involved in rugby in those early years, I probably wouldn't have worried and suffered as much of the worry as I did. But then when I did come out, you know, rugby was hugely supportive, and I wouldn't have gone through what I got through in my life without the rugby. The rugby kept me going, even in those dark times where, you know, some nights you're lying awake and thinking, right, this is it, you know, I'm going to do it now, I'm going to end it now. And then you don't do it, and then you think about it again. But even in those times, actually going on the field and refereeing on Saturday was right for that 80 minutes. Those dark times have gone, I got to do this. I wasn't able to do it as well as I should have been, because I was still from time to time thinking about it. But it was a get away from everything, really. And that's what you find. A lot of people will play a sport or play in a rugby team or referee because whatever they're struggling with, you know, if they got getting through a bad time at home, relationship issues, whatever they're struggling with, when they get out in that field, they forget all their worries for 80 minutes. And if you can do that, it helps you, you know, to get through those dark times. So, you know, refereeing did help me get through those dark times as well, although it was causing the worry as well. But then when I did come out, no, so rugby was hugely supportive. I can count on one hand the negative comments that I've had, or certainly the negative comments that I'm aware of or heard. But you're going to get individuals and a minority in all walks of life who just don't like people because of their sexuality or the colour of the skin or for what country they come from or religious beliefs or whatever. But thankfully those people are in the minority, where the majority of people are hugely supportive.
And just finally, I think you might have touched upon this before, and it might be quite a hard question to answer, but if you had one bit of advice for athletes or future athletes who are worried or suffer from some kind of mental health, what would you say to them?
First of all, I think you have to accept that you are suffering from an issue, a mental health issue, problems at home, financial issues, worrying about the sport you're doing, whatever it is that is worrying you and is causing this worry, which is causing you to have mental health issues or causing you to have other issues in your life, whatever they are, you need to first of all accept that there are issues. I am not dealing with whatever it is, and it is affecting me. Once you accept that, then you can decide what you're going to do about it. And then my biggest advice would be is to talk about it. No matter who you speak to, it could be a total stranger, somebody within the environment, somebody at home, your partner, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, no matter who it is, but talk about it. Seek help about it. There are plenty of organisations out there now who offer advice and help. And those organisations may be right for you. They may not be right for you. Maybe just speaking to somebody who's experienced it themselves, or somebody you just know or don't know. But talk about it. And by doing that, you are then doing two things. You are, one, accepting that there is an issue, which is the biggest challenge. A lot of people don't accept, and they keep pushing it away, and it gets worse and gets worse. Then you are actually talking about it, so you're accepting there are issues, and you're actually doing something about it. And it could lead you down a different path, whereby speaking to people, and somebody says, look, I went through the same thing, and this is what I did, and I went to speak to this organisation, they're very helpful, and all of a sudden, oh, I'll try that then, and you find something that works for you. But once you start doing that, you can then move on and hopefully, get through it. And the sooner you do that, the better, because the longer it goes on, the more difficult it is for you to accept, the more difficult for you to speak about it, and the more difficult it is maybe then for you to get through that. So the sooner you accept and try and do something about it, then the better chance you have of getting through that, the better chance you have of maybe getting through that for life. Sometimes, I know people, for example, who've been suffering with eating disorders, and they still suffer from it today. I still suffer from eating disorders today, 30 years on from when it started, or 25 years on from when it started. Hopefully it'll go away. I haven't suffered from about 8 months with it now, but it may come back again. But because I haven't been to seek help over the years, I'm still suffering from it now, where if I had gone to seek help years ago, and there wasn't as much information to help there years ago as there is now, then maybe I would have had a better chance of recovering and preventing it coming back again. So, look at the fact that you are talking about whatever issues they are in your life, from the biggest to the smallest, whatever they are. Look at it as a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. Because to open up and speak about whatever it is that's troubling you is actually a sign of great strength, and it's not a sign of weakness. And until you open up about it and accept it, then you're not going to go through it. Or you may be lucky and get through it on your own, but it may take you a lot longer than by having somebody to help you.